Today we're going to tell the story of a mysterious island. A mysterious island. That is right. Have you heard of Macquari Island? Never heard of it. It's normal not to have heard of it. There are no permanent residents on this island and very few visitors each year, only a couple hundred people annually. The island is located in the subgiant Antarctic region between Australia and Antarctica, now part of Tasmania, making it the southernmost World Heritage Site. So what makes this place special? Just look at these pictures. Wow, so many penguins. That is right. The island is famous for its millions of penguins, especially royal penguins. This is their only breeding ground in the world, only here and on nearby islands. Of course, there are other types of penguins too, like king penguins, southern rockhopper penguins, and macaroni penguins. The total population might be around 3 to 4 million. There are also elephant seals, sea lions, various seabirds, but none in such large numbers as the penguins. It is like a colony of penguins has taken over this island. That's right, but while it may look like these penguins live happily now, things weren't always so good for them. This place was once a nightmare for penguins. Really? Yes, they were not only surrounded by invasive species like rats, but also almost driven to extinction by some terrifying machines. Let's talk about that story then. Macquari Island was first recorded in Ecology by Ishawan Soushese, and a ship from Sydney discovered it. The captain found the island, teeming with penguins and seals, and was thrilled because he had a mission. A mission? What kind of mission? Think about it. Today we rely on oil and gas for fuel, but back in the Shaba th and Shujyo ths, before the widespread use of petroleum, what did people use as fuel? Right, animal products. Back then, whale and seal oils were major sources of fuel. When this island was discovered at the height of Europe's industrial revolution, cities and factories needed large amounts of lighting oil and industrial lubricants, so humans hunted whales and seals everywhere they could find them. In the early Shujyo century, when this island was found, northern hemisphere whale and seal resources were almost depleted, so there was a trend to move southward for new hunting grounds. The captain's mission was to find new seal hunting grounds, and Macquari Island seemed perfect for that purpose. So he started hunting seals on the island. Yes, after discovering large numbers of seals, he immediately sent hunters to start killing them. He also tried to keep news of the discovery secret, so he could monopolize the oil resources with his business partners. Did he succeed? Of course not. The stakes were too high. When he was recruiting sailors for seal hunting in ports, some of his crew might have sold the information to other hunting companies. That is just one possible reason why the news spread. Regardless, within a few months, word about this oil-rich island spread throughout the industry. Hunting ships from all over began arriving en masse. The island became the center of Pacific seal hunting for decades, with hundreds of trips back and forth. So did they hunt all the seals to extinction? No, but their numbers dropped quickly. By the Echenbabai Sishamau, it is estimated that 70% of the seal population was wiped out, especially large species like southern elephant seals and fur seals. That's terrible. Yes, this is just the beginning of the story though. Why is this just the beginning? Because what came to the island wasn't just humans. Did something else come along too? Yes, stowaway rats on ships. When ships docked for supplies, these rats snuck aboard and ended up on the island. Did they like it there? They probably loved it. This isolated subgen Antarctic island had no land-based predators besides the birds mentioned earlier. So what about those large seabirds? Wouldn't they eat the rats? There are albatrosses, gulls, but they mainly feed at sea. Rats mostly hunt at night and hide in burrows or grass, so they're not much of a target for these birds. Instead, once on the island, the rats began hunting these birds. The first victims were the penguins. What? Rats can hunt penguins? Yes, but it is not what you might imagine. They don't eat adult penguins. Instead, they go after eggs and chicks. During winter, when food is scarce, attacks on penguin chicks become especially severe. They'll swallow eggs whole or gnaw at the backs, heads, or tails of chicks in groups, causing them to bleed out. But wouldn't the penguin mothers protect their young? That is a good point. They don't really do that though. There are two main reasons for this. Firstly, evolutionarily speaking, these penguins had lived on an island without any mammals and hadn't developed instincts to deal with small predators. They didn't even see them as threats but rather part of the background environment. So according to some literature, you'd sometimes see a shocking scene where rats attack chicks while their mothers just watch coldly. This isn't because they're heartless, it is simply that they don't recognize this as a threat. Secondly, on Manchurian Island there is a penguin species. Both parents have the habit of going out to sea for long distances to find food. They're often gone for days at a time. During this period, the chicks are left alone in the grass. And rats particularly target these lone chicks. These reasons, combined with the rats' ability to attack at night when they can't be seen, led to a decrease in penguin breeding success after the rats arrived on the island. When there weren't many rats initially, it might not have been too serious. But you know how fast rat populations grow and how few natural predators they have. They quickly reached numbers that threatened the penguins' survival. This wasn't just an issue for penguins, all birds on the island were at risk, including humans. Humans are also threatened by rats. In a way, yes. Rats eat food brought in by humans, which is crucial for sailors on the island. To solve this problem, what do you think people did? Well, they put out rat poison. If that was their solution, it might not have been so bad. But instead, they decided to bring cats onto the island to get rid of the rats. Bringing in cats. Yes, perhaps more convenient than laying down poison. No need for constant maintenance. How effective was this? Well, initially, there were some results. However, compared to the consequences of bringing cats to the island, these effects weren't worth mentioning. Once cats formed a population on the island, they didn't really bother with quick and agile rats. Instead, they turned their attention to clumsy penguins and seabirds. And this situation was even worse. Larger cats not only attacked chicks and eggs but sometimes smaller adult birds too, making life harder for penguins and other birds. But there is another creature that joined the party later on. You probably won't guess this one. It was rabbits. Rabbits. Why rabbits? Many people don't know that workers on the island lived in poor conditions, especially those at Macquari Island. Supplies were almost entirely dependent on ships, and food could spoil if not properly stored. So to ensure a steady supply of fresh meat, they introduced European rabbits to the island. Rabbits were easier and tastier than penguins or seals, so it was all about having something to eat. Exactly. This led to three major forces on the island: rats, cats, and rabbits. We'll talk more about their impact later, because a real threat to the penguins is coming soon. This big threat appeared after Yichen Babai Joshuan Saoshen Macquari Island was handed over to Tasmania in Australia. The government leased it to a New Zealand businessman for oil refining. By then, the island's ecosystem had already changed significantly from its discovery days. What was different? Think about it. Humans had been on the island for around 100 years by this point. They started hunting seals and sea lions right away, so by now, these animals' numbers were way down. Many seal gen hunting ships left because they weren't profitable anymore. Why did this businessman still want to lease the island? Well, that is interesting. He saw that there weren't many seals left but plenty of untapped penguins, so he decided to develop an oil industry based on them, using penguins for oil. Yes, it wasn't entirely new back then, but he used advanced methods, steam boilers. Sounds scary, right? What is this thing? It is a large high-jan pressure steam device like a pressure cooker. It melts and extracts fat from animals quickly under high heat and pressure. All you need to do is herd the penguins together and knock them out with sticks. One penguin could yield 0.5 kilogram to 1 kilogram of oil. Sounds terrible. Yes, this machine was far more destructive to penguins than rats or cats on the island. Records show that during the businessman's peak years, his workers processed thousands of penguins daily, mostly king and royal penguins. Over Yichen Babai Joshu Jian Yichen Jiobai Arsha, an estimated 2 million penguins were lost. That is too many. It nearly wiped out Macquari Island's penguin population. Who saved the penguins? Only humans could stop humans. This terrible practice continued until Itenjo by Arshawan Xiaoshe. In it was banned due to Antarctic explorers. Antarctic explorers in the early Arsha 8th century, especially around World War I, were heroes to many people. They made penguins beloved creatures. When they discovered this industry on the island, they criticized it heavily in media and international discussions. This led Tasmania's government to stop the businessman's permit and declare the island a wildlife sanctuary in Ichen Jobai Sensen Phu. The penguins are saved. Wait, you forgot about the three beasts of the island: rats, cats, and rabbits. Don't forget that while humans were leaving the island, these creatures weren't idle either. We've talked about how rats and cats threaten the wildlife. Now let's talk about rabbits. You wouldn't believe it, but rabbits are just as threatening to the island's plants as the other two beasts. Oh, these rabbits, after arriving on the island, caused a rapid decline in the number of various plants. You can take a look at these jijantu. The humans set up fences to assess how fast the rabbits were eating away at the vegetation. It is obvious that inside the fenced areas, the plants are much taller. Right, don't the rabbits eat too much? But there are cats on the island as well. Yes, the cats do catch some rabbits because they're easier prey than mice. However, compared to their reproduction rate, it only slightly controls the rabbit population. At its peak, the number of rabbits exceeded 10. The vegetation on the island began to noticeably decrease, which indirectly affected birds and penguins. Again, these ground-end nesting birds are easily exposed to various predators like cats and mice without tall plants for cover. They're more vulnerable to attacks, and in Launten Lin Liu, something even worse happened. Due to the rabbits eating so much vegetation, a large gen-scale landslide occurred on the eastern side of the island, destroying an important breeding ground. But there is also this: as the rabbit population grew, so did the cat population due to abundant food. In Liuba, humans decided to tackle the rabbit problem by introducing a deadly virus for European rabbits. Did it work? It was quite effective. The rabbit population dropped to around 20,000. That sounds good, but think about it. With fewer rabbits, what do those cats eat? You guessed it. After the rabbit population drastically decreased, the cats started preying more on birds and seabirds. Humans saw this wasn't right and decided to target the cats instead. In Bawu, they brought in specially trained hunting dogs using traps for a continuous 15-year hunt, successfully clearing the island of cats by Launten. Finally, something went well. But what happens when there are no more cats on the island? Well, partly right, both rats and rabbits began to increase dramatically after Launten. As shown in this chart, the rabbit population started rising again due to immunity against introduced viruses and the disappearance of cats. The plants suffered once more, with rabbit burrows providing hiding spots for rats, making it easier to attack bird nests. So these three animals are in a delicate balance. Remove one and the others go out of control. You're right, local authorities figured this out around then and made a big decision in Launten Linsi: complete eradication. Not the whole island, just the remaining rats and rabbits. Oh, you scared me there. This Macquari Island pest eradication program was led by the Australian Antarctic Division and Tasmanian government, costing yuan Siyingli Elian Ord. It is one of the largest and most expensive invasive species removal programs in the world at that time. They mainly used poison baits dropped from helicopters to avoid uneven distribution due to terrain issues. Smart move, and it worked. Both rabbit and rat populations significantly decreased. However, there was a pause because many seabirds ate poisoned rabbit carcasses and were also killed off. To address this, they introduced another virus targeting only rabbits and deployed more personnel to clear dead animals. They're really determined this time. Initially, they thought the plan would take over 10 years, but in Arlene Yalsi, the government announced that no signs of these three species had been found for 3 years. The island was officially cleared of pests. That is quite an achievement. Impressive execution by those government units, though they might share some responsibility for this mess. Cleaning it up well is commendable. Now, Macquari Island is not only the southernmost World Heritage Site, but also one of the world's most spectacular penguin breeding grounds with over 2 million penguins. The numbers of seabirds and seals have also significantly recovered. This unique history has been recognized by the International Union for Conservation of Nature as one of the most successful island ecosystem restoration models globally.